up my reference photo, and that's not the one I want. Okay, here we go. All right, there is my reference photo. I'm going to put it over here on a different screen. All righty, let's jump in. I need to choose a brush that is going to be a good size to work with, not too large, not too small. Okay, I'm going to get a couple of my Rosemary & Co. brushes out here. Let's see what I have. I have a size 1 and a size 2. These are the red dot brushes. I also have a really small brush. This is a series 313, and that's a 0. And then this is a size 2 snowdrop pointed round. All of these are Rosemary & Co. brushes because they are my favorite, and in my personal opinion, they are the best. I've already drawn out my bow, and I have a base wash of yellow on there. So what I'm going to do now is start diving into other colors. What I have on my palette is Nickel Azo Yellow, Quinacridone Rose. Let's see, this is Permanent Alizarin Crimson and Phthalo Blue Red Shade. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start on this little section right here, and I'm just going to get it damp with some clean water. Right there we go. Okay, so I've just got that wet with some water, and I'm going to start out with the Quinacridone Rose. I'm going to get a little puddle down here, and I'm going to start dropping this color in. Now, the reason that I put yellow first is because even though Quinacridone Rose is a really pretty color, I'm going to be using several washes on this painting, and there is the chance that it can turn dull and uninteresting and just kind of blah. So when I use reds and yellows a lot of time, most of the time, I will use a yellow underwash, and the purpose is to help keep those reds, I just dropped my brush, to help keep my reds vibrant and rich and just looking lively. So I have that on there. And I'm going to go ahead and get the Permanent Alizarin Crimson wet, but I want this to be a much thicker consistency. And I'm going to go ahead and map in where I want some of this darker color to be, which is going to be right up here. It comes around and it runs down here on this outside edge. And I'm just picking up a little bit of paint on my brush. And like I said, the consistency is rather thick because I want my paint to have a drier consistency than the surface of my paper. So when I put that color down, it's going to stay put. Now I'm going to jump over here and do this one next. So again, I'll just put down some clean water. Now you want to make sure that you have enough water so that when you put your paint on, that it's going to flow easily, that you're not going to have to be fighting it to get it to spread onto the paper. But then you don't want so much water that your paint is just going to float right on the top and end up causing some harsh edges and blooms and just yuckiness. Going to do the same thing over here, and you'll see that a lot of times watercolor is rinse and repeat. So this bow, I'm going to start out with the Quinacridone Rose, and I'm going to just put that in right on top of that yellow. This kind of makes the Quinacridone Rose turn sort of a red-orange color. I really like using Quinacridone Rose and Nickel Azo Yellow together that is one of my favorite combinations when I'm wanting to use some reds, especially if I'm wanting a nice bright red. I will use those two colors together. So now I'm going to dip into the permanent alizarin crimson, and I'm going to start establishing where the darkness is, or the shadow on this side as well. Okay, so far, that's looking pretty good. Now we're going to build up on these colors. This is not all that we're going to do for this bow. We're going to keep establishing colors and building up on them. So now I don't want to paint these two parts of this bow because it's right next to this one. And what I'll do is go ahead and paint in this section right here. All right. Let's see why. Okay, my microphone seems to be working. Okay, I didn't think it was. Maybe I need to move it so that it's closer to my mouth. I don't know. Hopefully you can hear me because it's not showing up very well on my microphone odometer. Okay, where was I? Right here. I was getting this bow wet, or this knot in the bow. I'm going to take that quinacridone rose and put that right on top of that yellow. Start building up that vibrant red color. And then next, of course, I'm going to go into this very thick pigment, and it is the permanent alizarin crimson. I'm going to drop that in where I see that, then rinse out that brush. Now, I don't want to do this part of the ribbon yet because that knot in the middle is wet. So let's just come right on around here. Okay, I'm getting this part of the ribbon wet with water. Again, enough water to get the paper wet, not so much water that there are puddles. Same procedure, starting with the rose first. And then I will put on top of the rose the permanent alizarin crimson where there are darker areas. So I'll go ahead and get this painted in. And what you're going to notice about the way that I paint is I will typically do sections. I feel like that makes it easier to keep up with where you are. And also, sometimes there's just areas that are side by side that you don't want to paint together at the same time. All right, so this ribbon, it really doesn't have much of the alizarin crimson in it. There's a little bit right there and a little bit right here, and that is basically it. So now what I want to do is go ahead and get this dry. So I'm going to mute my mic just in case it picks up the sound of the hair dryer. Turn my mic back on. Now I think I am going to go ahead and do these little parts of the bow itself. I'm going to switch to a little bit smaller brush just because I've got some fine little spots right here that I'm trying to get into, and I'd rather have a smaller brush to work with than one that could potentially cause me some problems. So now I have this area wet with water. Taking the quinacridone rose, dropping that in first. And I'll have to say, I think that there may potentially be a time limit on how long I can do a live, because when I was trying this earlier today, it cut off at like 45 minutes. So, hopefully it won't, but we'll see what happens. Now I'm going to grab the permanent alizarin crimson. And this ribbon has quite a bit of this really dark, rich color. Right up here, it runs right down through here. And I'm sorry, but I am getting a little bit sloppy, not on purpose. I think that because this is the first live that I've done in such a long time, I'm trying to watch too many things at one time, and I'm not paying enough attention to what I'm painting. So I'm getting a little sloppy. So my apologies for that. Now I can come over here and do this one. Again, lighter and more vivid. So for now, I'm just going to put the quinacridone rose on there. And I can build upon that if I need to. Now I want you to notice how when I put my paint down, it's flowing on the paper, but it's not just staying stagnant in one place. I'm able to easily move it where I want it to go, but it's also not just taking off across the paper like it's running a marathon or something. So that's where you want it to be in order to A, have control, and B, not make any huge mistakes. And hey there, shoot. Okay, somebody was on there and they disappeared, so I'm having to wonder if they can't see or hear me. This is so frustrating. I'm going to have to do some research. Okay, let's go ahead and paint in this little portion down here. And I'm just using the alizarin crimson and just going to paint that right in. And over here, same thing. This area is really dark, so I'm just going to paint that alizarin crimson right in. Now, I've got to dry it once more. Okay, here I am back. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get this one worked in. And it is the exact same as what we've been doing. We're going to get it wet. Then we're going to drop in our color. Starting out with the rose. I'm trying to be careful, but I keep having to look up at my screen and see how many people are watching, if there's any comments. This is a solo show, and if I had a helper, it would be so much easier. But unfortunately, I don't have a helper. So I'm in it by myself, but I'm not scared. The way I look at it is this is an adventure. I can learn from it. I know that there's going to be mistakes, and I can get those all worked out in time. This particular part of this bow has a little bit of the darker shading right here. And as it goes down this way, it does also. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that dark color in, and I'm going to carry it on through. Now let's come back up here to this area. I want to grab some yellow. I'm going to pull it out here into the center. Now, this paint has been on my palette quite a long time today, so of course it's gotten kind of dry. That's not a big deal. I'm going to put some of the rose in there. I'm creating an orange. I think I want a little more yellow back in there. Okay, so now I have a nice orange. I'm just going to paint wet on to dry at this point. So I'm going to put my orange in right here. Grab some more of that crimson. Drag it down this way. I'm just going to tap my brush out a little bit. I'm going to pick up some more of the rose. I'm going to bring it on down because I don't want this to be too orange. I still want it to look red, but it needed a little something. So that's why I did that. Let's turn our attention over here. Now let's try this a different way. I'm going to try it by just dropping in yellow to brighten this area up. And then I can put in some of the rose right on top of it. So you can do it either way. Whatever makes more sense to you is fine. Let's see here. Okay, got that. I want to put some of this orange color right on top of here. And I think I'm going to add a little yellow and drop some yellow in too. Now, it's fine if I want to go ahead and work on this section of the bow down here because it is dry and it's close to an area that's dry, so I'm safe to paint down here. I'm going to start with the yellow. I'm going to come in with the orange on top of that. Then I'm going to pick up some of the rose. And I'll put some rose up in here. And then bring that on down. Pick up some of the alizarin crimson, drop it in over here, and come on down this way. I'm just going to clean out my brush. Just move this color around, straighten out some of my edges because, as I said, I'm trying to look at too many things at one time. And it's getting to the point of I like it. So I'm going to dry it yet again. That just might be good enough. Okay, this one is still looking a little bit too orange for me, but I'm going to let it stay for now. I'm going to come over here into the quinacridone rose, and I'm going to get a wash of that, put it in place here. Get some of the crimson. I'm going to put a little bit right up here, drag it around the corner. Right in here, there's a little bit of some darkness happening. And I think that looks good right there. Over here, I'm taking quinacridone rose and just painting that in over on this side. Right in here, quinacridone rose again. Did a little spillage right there. I added a little bit of yellow to brighten it up. I'm going to put some permanent alizarin crimson in there. I'm going to get just a little bit on my brush, not very much, and bring just the tiniest amount of that up through here. And finally, I want to finish up over here with some yellow, throwing some rose on top. Take a little bit of some of the permanent alizarin crimson. I'm just putting that in places where I feel like I need it. Sometimes I will actually mix two colors together just right on the palette with my brush and then bring them into play on the painting. I'm going to put a little yellow up in here. I'm going to deepen the crimson right there. I'm even going to grab a little bit of my blue, put some blue in there, rinse out my brush, tap out the water, and then just soften that around with a nicely damp brush. Oop. Okay, so this happens sometimes, and I wasn't noticing that I had a little bead of water on the ferrule of my brush, and it managed to roll down right into what I was painting. So I just used my paper towel, lift that up, get rid of it, done. If you catch a mistake like that, as soon as it happens and you correct it, you are golden. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of my blue, some of the crimson. I'm going to bring it over here. And what I'm going to create is a really dark kind of a burgundy color, but I am going to add a little yellow in there. And I'm going to add a little bit of the rose. And my grandson just walked in the room, so he's going to be joining us here. Here he comes. What are you doing, Rune? Okay, wait a minute. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Okay, the whole family's here now. Okay, that's what it's like in my world. It kind of goes crazy sometimes. But you know what? I would not trade that for any amount of money in the world. I love it that my daughter, son-in-law, and my two grandbabies live with me. It thrills me personally. Okay, so this bow looks a little like poop on a stick. I'll have to admit, because I am nervous about watching too many things at one time. So my apologies for a raggedy looking bow, but let me take my eradicator brush and like this little spot right here, I can just take that damp brush and just pick that right up. I did a splatter over here, which I'm not going to bother about trying to clean all of it right now, but I'm going to clean a little bit of it up just so it doesn't look so bad. Okay, so much for my live event today. Hopefully I will get better at it because right now there is a lot to be desired. And I can go on with this bow. I'm going to actually move it because my overhead light is shining on it in a way that makes it look a little bit glary. Let me get my camera more in focus. Okay, so this is kind of where I am. And I tell you what I would do. If I had more time, I would lift some of this color out down here because there is a reflection down here. And I would also start lifting out color up here to make it more of a highlight. And I have to be careful because there are things that are still wet. And some of the places, like maybe in here, I would get wet and lift it out. But I know that my video, my live is going to cut short here in a second because it did earlier today. So I'm going to leave it right here. But if you want more inspiration, if you want more full-length tutorials that are not rushed, that I'm relaxed and I can actually show you what to do, then just hop on over to my website. It's Nina Suggs Watercolor. My last name is spelled S like in Sam, U, G, G, S as in Sam. And I've got tutorials on there that you can take a look at for inspiration. You can purchase them if you want to try them. And of course, here on my YouTube channel, I have quite a few tutorials and different things for you to learn from. And I also have an email address, and it is Nina at ninasuggswatercolor.com. So if you have any questions about watercolor, if you're struggling with anything and you need um, some help with whatever it might be, whether it's color mixing or water to paint ratio or water control, whatever it might be, all you got to do is just send me an email. I am simply an email away. And I need to make sure that the next time I go live that I prepare better, that I have more time, and make sure that my mic and my camera and everything is working properly. So it looks like my mic is working according to the little equalizer on the screen. I hope that it is. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. And it is Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving. So if you celebrate Thanksgiving, have a great one. Try not to eat too much. But if you do, think of me because I'm probably going to eat too much. And I guess I will see you sometime in the near future with another tutorial. So have a great one, and I'll see you soon.